Hello everybody, Darren Jordania, owner and head coach at The Threshold. Second video of the series. Last month we spoke about Stephen Seiler's hierarchy of endurance needs. And this month I thought we could delve a little bit into what race fitness is. So race fitness is basically the ability to arrive at a race fit, being able to compete with either your rivals, compete with the course, set a PB, or just going to generally have fun. On the road to race fitness, one of the specific things that we need to address is what's called race limiters. I like to categorize these into two different lists of 6 different abilities. The first list is what's called basic abilities. This is your endurance, speed skills, and force. What happens with raw endurance is just the ability to sit on your bicycle for an extended period of time and not fatigue. Force is the ability to create muscle force and put that into the pedal. And then finally, speed skills is your ability to pedal a bicycle very, very efficiently without any wasted movement. These three form the pillars of a very good program, and they will then form into what's called your higher abilities. Now, your higher abilities are anaerobic endurance, power, and muscle endurance. And when you combine endurance and force together, you get muscle endurance. When you combine force and speed skills together, you get power. And finally, when you combine endurance and speed skills, you get anaerobic endurance. These are what are called your higher abilities. So how do we improve these abilities? So as I said, there's a basic ability group and there's a higher ability group. With your basic abilities, firstly, raw endurance. Riding longer. So if you're somebody who's always riding 2 hours as your long ride, go to 2.5 hours, go to 3 hours, go to 3.5 hours. Importantly, when it comes to a lot of these things, when you're initially addressing them, it's always good to find a professional coach who can actually talk to you about these and lay down the foundation correctly. For example, with raw endurance, tracking efficiency factor, tracking aerobic decoupling. These are things that are going to tell you whether that raw endurance number is actually improving well, or you're just wasting your time. Speed skills, the ability to produce efficient movements at different cadences. So again, if you're somebody who's got a modern trainer and you're always on erg mode and you're sitting there at 80, 85, 90 RPM, I can tell you right now, your efficiency at 50, 60, 70 and above 90, 100, 110 RPM is not going to be very good. And so in a race situation at those RPMs, when you're required to produce power, you're going to fatigue quite quickly. And then finally, with the basic abilities is obviously force. And force is the ability to push or create force with the muscle, or push the pedals with force. If you go to a gym and you find a professional there, they would be able to tell you what kind of numbers you would need to look at. If you're on a bicycle, the same thing. If I asked you to go do a maximal sprint and all you could produce was 600 watts and you're racing in the vets category, you're a 33-year-old man, you're not going to compete. It's just not enough raw force in the pedals. And that would be something that would need to be addressed on the bicycle as well as in the gym. Once those basic abilities are taken care of, you can then start to look at the higher abilities. And again, I would definitely encourage asking a professional. Remember, higher abilities are anaerobic endurance, so a combination of endurance and speed skills. Then we've got power, which is your speed skills and your force. And then we've got muscle endurance, which is endurance and your force. Muscle endurance is just the ability to produce high levels of output and resist fatigue, whereas power is expression of strength. So in the first example with muscle endurance, if you don't have good endurance, if you don't have the good ability, the raw endurance ability, trying to produce muscle endurance isn't going to be very good. And the same with power. If you don't have a lot of force, and force is part of the equation of creating power, you're not going to have a very high power output, and that higher ability is going to be lacking. And then finally, anaerobic endurance, the ability to produce high output at high cadences and resist fatigue. Again, if you don't have very good movement skills, you don't have very good your endurance side of things, you are not going to have a very good anaerobic capacity. And in a race, if anaerobic capacity is one of the limiters, you're not going to perform very well. So these are all the mixtures that you can get. And as I say, a very good thing to do is to go speak to a professional if you feel that you are lacking in any of these abilities, or you just want someone to guide the process a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. I will see you in the next video.